Hello YouTube, it is your boy Tommy Boy. We are back with another video, something a little bit different for you guys today. I really just wanted to get on here to discuss something that I shared on my story the other day. It was a post from my coach Dean, basically showcasing how much progress I've made over the last 4.5 years. So when I first started with Dean, on the left I was 86 kilograms, and on the right, I am now 108 kilos. And when I shared this to my story initially, all I said underneath it was relentless repetition. So that can be a little bit vague. I don't know if everybody else is going to necessarily relate to that phrase as much as what I do. So I really just wanted to break down relentless repetition and what it means to me, and maybe you guys will take something from it. So to me, relentless repetition is doing the same things day in, day out over a very long period of time, finding joy in the process, finding joy in the monotony of bodybuilding, the boringness of bodybuilding, and really buying into the long game and not getting sidetracked or distracted by short-term validation and short-term wins. And I think if you're somebody who needs like short-term validation, like you need a week-to-week pat on the back, which is okay. Some people will like that, that's fair. But I do think if this is you, then bodybuilding is probably not meant for you. I think if this is you, there are many other avenues for you to explore your competitive needs, like playing basketball, playing football, playing a team sport every weekend where you do get the opportunity to have those week-to-week pats on the back. But for me, defining relentless repetition, in order to say that you are well and truly married to the process and this process gives you purpose, then you need to be able to do it over a very long period of time. And I think that's why I am somebody who believes that you, for most people, now everyone's going to be different, I'm speaking for myself, I believe you need to earn your goals. And sometimes I believe that in order to achieve your goals, you need to learn how to walk before you learn how to run. And you need to take one step and put it in front of the other before you think about sprinting your way to the finish line. Because the finish line isn't always going to be within your grasp. It could be years away from where you are right now, because it's a long game. And when you're playing the long game and when you're buying into the long game, you will make a significant amount of progress. And that's what I've been able to do over the last 4 to 5 years. I've truly bought into the long game. I haven't been perfect all of the time, but I've almost been perfect all of the time. And I do think there's something to be said for being almost perfect all of the time, as opposed to trying to be perfect all of the time, but then when you eventually fail, because no one can be perfect all of the time, but when you do eventually fail, it seems like a massive roadblock. It seems like a massive deviation from the perfect plan, if that makes sense. So I've always pretty well just steadily stayed on track without deviating too heavily from the plan. I've still been able to go overseas and enjoy holidays. I've still been able to go out nearly every single week for a date night and eat almost whatever the fuck I feel like, to be fair, and still make progress. Because I'm doing all of the non-negotiables day in, day out, 365 days a year. I'm always getting my steps done. I'm never missing my meals. Yes, there might be a few days where I overeat, but that's normal. Like, we're human. We're not robots. We can't just program into somebody's mind that you must be a perfect bodybuilder. It doesn't work like that. If it did, there would be a lot of fucking crazy athletes out there. And I think that's what separates the genetic freaks to those who are actually able to, I suppose, maximize their genetic potential, because there are a lot of genetic freaks out there that end up falling well short of their genetic potential simply because they don't have the mindset that's required to take things to the next level. So for me, relentless repetition is a really important phrase. And I think I'm just, I suppose, grateful that I've been able to adopt this mindset since deciding to invest in a coach. And it's also been good knowing that my coach believes in me and has faith in me. But I'll tell you this, I think even Dean is surprised by how much progress I've made, because I remember him saying after my very first show that I did with him that he was a little bit surprised by just how well my physique translated on stage. I was the sort of guy, I mean, you can see it in the photos on the left, I was the sort of guy who looked pretty small standing by himself, but for some reason when you put me on a stage against other bodybuilders, my clavicle width obviously stands out, and that is a genetic trait that I'm very lucky to have. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your genetics are, because if you can't apply it on stage, then it's not going to take you very far, is it? Bodybuilding is the sort of sport where a large degree of selfishness is required, and I think it's your responsibility as an athlete to determine who is actually helping in this process rather, versus who is hindering. And those who hinder should be removed from your life within reason. Obviously, if it's your mum, then maybe rethink. But if you've got mates or so-called mates that are supposed to be helping and supposed to be motivating and encouraging, and they're not doing this for you, then at the end of the day, if they're not serving a purpose to you, then you will need to cut them off. And fortunately for me, I've got a lot of very understanding friends that may not actually be particularly interested in bodybuilding, but they completely understand why I do what I do, and they are encouraging in the way that they communicate to me, at the very least, despite my efforts to get out of most social interactions, because a lot of them involve eating food that I may not be able to consume at that time, or consuming alcohol, which is, for me, a bit of a no-go. Like, I don't really drink very often. I would say that I drink maybe on 4 or 5 occasions throughout a calendar year, and maybe one of those 4 occasions would I actually have more than 2 drinks. So I'm not a big drinker, and I think there's a massive drinking culture in Australia, so that by default has resulted in me not losing friends, but not being as close with some of those friends as where I would be would I not be bodybuilding, or should I not be bodybuilding. So yeah, that's just a bit of insight into my mind. I do think there is a lot to be said for using a phrase and really manifesting that phrase. Like, for me, relentless repetition is something that I adopt every single day. I wake up first thing in the morning, I go to the toilet and I jump on the scale. I then perform some plank holds. I then go downstairs and I have my hydration drink. And that is a day in the life of Tom. It's the same thing every single day, whether I'm at home or whether I'm overseas. Even if I'm on holiday, I'm still doing all of that shit day in, day out. And I'm always tracking my food. Even when I was in America, I was taking photos of my meals. I was uploading those pictures to ChatGPT, asking Chat for estimations on the macros from this meal. It may not be perfectly accurate, but this is exactly what I was talking about when I was saying that I'm almost perfect all of the time. I would still consider that as a pretty good choice to make, and a pretty, I would say, well, in hindsight, the outcome was very successful, because I gained 3 kilos in a 3-week period post-show, despite eating fried chicken nearly every fucking day. The only way that I was able to make that work was because I was still loosely tracking my food, even when I think most people would look at that and think that I'm crazy. But I can do it in a way that allows me to go about my holiday feeling guilt-free, making a decent crack at rebounding out of a diet without getting fat, and then I'm straight back into routine and almost 100% adherence as soon as I get back home into my normal life again. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. A slightly shorter video, which is, I think, quite nice, because I know that my vlogs, my training vlogs, go for a good 30 minutes typically. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Once again, if you are going to do something today, please do so without hesitation. If you've made it this far, make sure you like, subscribe, reshare to your Instagram stories, and I will see you all again on the next one. Peace.